There was a time when action heroes weren't carved out of CGI or sculpted by a team of publicists. They didn't need origin stories or franchises, just a steely glare, a solid right hook, and a willingness to leap through a pane of glass. They weren't household names, not always. But in the golden age of home video, you didn't need to be on a billboard. You just had to look cool on a VHS cover. These were the warriors of the rental era. Rough around the edges, maybe a little ridiculous, but unforgettable. Let's rewind to a few of the legends who punched their way into cult status. Reb Brown, the human sledgehammer. Reb Brown didn't act. He charged. He was the kind of guy you'd cast if you needed someone to yell, sweat, and fire a machine gun from the hip, all while sprinting through the jungle. His breakout came with the 1979 TV movie version of Captain America. But Reb hit his real stride in the wild west of low-budget action. Films like Strike Commando, Robo-War, and Space Mutiny turned him into a kind of underground icon. Was he subtle? Nope. Was he believable? Barely. But was he entertaining? Always. There's something almost charming in how over-the-top it all was. Reb's characters didn't walk into danger, they screamed their way through it. He wasn't a chiseled pretty boy, he was a walking explosion. Cynthia Rothrock, the real deal. Before the mainstream figured out women could headline action movies, Cynthia Rothrock was already kicking people through plate glass. She started as a 5-time world martial arts champion and caught the attention of Hong Kong cinema before most Americans even knew who she was. Over there, she starred alongside Michelle Yeoh in movies that were pure kinetic energy. When she came back to the US, she carved out her own space with titles like China O'Brien, Lady Dragon, and Guardian Angel. She didn't need catchphrases, just a stare that said, "You're about to regret that." What made Cynthia special wasn't just the moves, it was the presence. She brought real precision to these scrappy films, and for a whole generation of movie fans, she was a trailblazer. Gary Daniels, the quiet storm. Gary Daniels was never the loudest guy in the room, and that's exactly what made him work. A former kickboxing champ from the UK, Gary had the look, the skills, and the posture of a guy who knew how to handle himself. In Fist of the North Star, he stepped into an anime adaptation that should have been a disaster, and somehow came out cool. In Rage and Firepower, he delivered fights that felt sharp, clean, and fast. He didn't have the hammy bravado of his peers. He brought restraint, control. Like a guy who didn't need to yell to be dangerous. He just needed an opening. In the noisy world of B-movie action, Gary Daniels was the calm before the storm. And then the storm. Billy Blanks, the hidden powerhouse. Before he created Tebow and became a fitness icon, Billy Blanks was laying waste to bad guys on screen with a combo of martial arts precision and raw charisma. In movies like TC-2000, Showdown, and The Last Boy Scout, in a wild opening scene, Billy was always moving with purpose, fast, fierce, and with this controlled intensity that made every punch feel personal. He didn't get the same spotlight as Van Damme or Siegel, but he had the skills, real ones. He wasn't there to pose, he was there to fight. And in the lower budget realm, that energy stood out. There's something genuine in how Billy carried himself. Like he knew his movies wouldn't win awards, but he still gave 110% every time. These weren't the action stars who graced the Oscars, but in the aisles of mom-and-pop video stores, they were royalty. And sure, maybe their movies didn't always make sense, but they made us feel something. Because if you grew up during that era or ever got sucked into a grainy action flick at 1 a.m., you know the truth. They really don't make them like this anymore. Some heroes never got their due, but we're here to fix that. Subscribe for more deep cuts and cult classics. See you in the next one.